So harvest and processing. Dongui processing is very difficult. I know that we've had Dongui seed in the U.S. for over a decade, and I know of no one that has ever processed it or sold that material. And so we have to ask ourselves why. So we can harvest in the second year. If you transplant, you've already had it kind of in the soil for 1 year, then you'll transplant after 1 year, and then you can harvest at the second year. So before frost descent, cut off the aerial part, leave a little stubble. In the Gentry Yuan's text, he says to expose it to sun a little bit to speed up the ripening. And then you're going to put it in a ventilated place and then evaporate a little bit more of the moisture. And then comes the actual hard part, because the hard part is smoking it. So Dongui is smoked to dry it, actually. And in Gentry Yuan text, he describes building a scaffolding and then laying the Dongui on the scaffolding. There's a thickness that's appropriate, 30 to 50 centimeters. Or you can make baskets to hang off the scaffolding. In order to make the fire, you don't really want to make smoke. You want to have, or actually you don't want to make a fire, a blazing fire. You just want to have a smoldering smoke. And so they recommend using fava beans or some twigs or fresh grass, ignited in such a way that it doesn't create smoke. The best quality Dongui is created without any actual flame. This process can take about 10 days. You should stop when the outer surface is a gold color or a pale brown color. Only at that point can you use some coal fire or firewood to slowly dry. If you dry it too rapidly, the color will turn red, it will lose the oil, it will lose the aroma, it will lose its function, it will lose its quality. This is one of the problems that people have that don't want to smoke it, where you do some type of normal drying process from day one, and all you do is bake off all the essential oils, and then you have none of the standard feature of the plant. Do you have a question?
So if you don't process it, then it's not marketable?
If you don't process it, it molds, and it turns green, and it smells terrible. And, I mean, you could sell it fresh. That's your other, I would say those are the two options, and a lot of these things are things that people should explore, because there is you could create a market for fresh herbs. There is a big market for fresh herbs in the actual growing regions. If you go to Chinatown in fall, in your local Chinatown, you may have the option of buying fresh American ginseng. American ginseng is sold fresh in pharmacies in Chinatown in fall. So there's a lot of medicinals that are, I mean, if we go into the market, we see fresh baihe, fresh shanyao, a lot of fresh medicinals. So Dongui is used in Dongui chicken soup, you know. I mean, you can think this way and go, I want to sell this fresh. If you sell it fresh, it weighs 4 times more, so you'll make 4 times more, you know. And then you don't have to deal with all this madness. But all that being said, it's still not sure if you can even grow something of any quality with it and have it fresh. So we've seen Andy came out a few years ago and talked about the same thing. He talked through the same process of drying. He just added a few things. He talks about using making the fire underneath a brick layer, and so the smoke comes up through the brick layer. He also says that if the material gets too dry, you can spray. I mean, the fava bean husk or the grass that you're burning as the material, you can spray it with a little bit of water to keep the flame down. You have to have good ventilation during this process, and you must frequently turn the herb over. Yeah, very, very challenging. But then we get to like the rubber hits the road part, and then our friend Gentry Yuan is saying that, you know, when you're processing Dongui, you can't shade dry it, you can't sun dry it. If you shade dry it, the material becomes lighter. Actually, like the piece that you'll hold in your hand will feel lighter if you shade dry it, and the skin starts turning bluish green. This is how I dried my Dongui the first time I harvested it and turned it green. And then we have sun drying or using a heatable adobe table or this brick, and then it gets too hard. You know, the skin turns red, it loses its oil content, and it reduces quality. So these are the two options of blowing it with Dongui. You're going to turn it green, and it's going to get light and bubbly, or you're going to bake it, you're going to lose all the oil, it's going to get dry like timber. And in one of the other books that I have, it says that when the rainy season arrives, you must use sulfur fumigation process to process it correctly. And then you end up with that on the right there, which you don't want. We typically don't really approve of sulfur processing anymore, but it's interesting when you go back to other processing books that it's just in there as a standard method. Yes?
Just a question, so when you're saying the blue,
Yeah.
shade dry, whatever, are they testing to see the actual use of the herb in that form if it's less potent?
I have no idea. All I can tell you is that the blue-green stuff has the same problem that it takes on it has none of the, so we'll get into the medicinal material. What are the features of the medicinal material? And like having grown the stuff and turning blue-green, it like has a messed up aroma. That transition of blue-green is like a molding function, not a oxidation function of the chemical constituents within it. And so the standard characteristic aroma starts shifting into this weird range, which is not Dongguei. So Becky, we need the Dongguei stuff to go around. So I have Dongguei here. I have 4 different kinds of Dongguei. And we can start looking at the differences. And there's one that's not very aromatic, and there's some that are very aromatic. And this is one of the major characteristics of Dongguei is the oil component of it and how it actually, this aromatic compound is going to be very important for the exterior releasing, cough suppressing, and blood activating function of Dongguei. So when we go back to looking at the standard formulas like Dongguei Sinitong or Dongguei Shaosan, all of these things require blood activation in order to have the typical function of the medicinal Dongguei. So if you want to have this thing that's molded, turned blue and green, has none of the characteristic aroma and none of the characteristic function, you can have that, but it's not Dongguei.
I was just more curious if like you could figure out a new way of doing it, if it would ever be accepted, even if the medicinal qualities are so.
Yeah, I think that, so what I'm saying is like you end up over here in left field or right field or somewhere else, and I think that what happens there is a new medicinal. You know, like you call that Shi Dongguei, or like Western Dongguei, or, you know, Dong Bugui, must not return, or Bu Dongguei. Anyway, so harvesting and processing, saying, you know, the best materials, second year should be harvested between the 15th and 30th of October. The best stuff is grown in Min County. It's actually harvested 3 to 5 days before frost descent. 3 to 5 days before frost descent that year, which is somewhere between October 23rd and 24th. That's in Gansu. As we move to different growing regions, Sichuan is kind of around that day, around the 23rd or 24th. And then Shanxi and Yan'an Prefecture has a broader range. So the one thing we want to avoid is harvesting Dongguei prematurely.